Entrepreneurship is hard, so let's fix that and dive into our heroes' journeys. This is Taking Flight, an entrepreneur's journey, and I'm Sarah Torville. Join me as we delve deep into the passions, expertise, and experiences of those already in flight. This show is sponsored by EO Atlanta. Well, it is wonderful to be here again today and to be the host of our really exciting Taking Flight EO Atlanta podcast. My guest today, I know, is going to enthrall so many of you. We're going to have a great conversation. She is very, very strategic, detail-orientated, organized. She's an author, a leader, a speaker, Chief Executive Officer at Communiqué USA Inc. and founder, podcast host at Audible Voices. It is Shani Godwin. Welcome, Shani.
Yay, thank you so much for having me. I've been so looking forward to this conversation.
I'm really, really delighted to have you here. So I know it's going to be so much fun. So, okay, so we're gonna kick right off, Shani. I'm gonna dig right into our first question, which I know our listeners, they get excited about. So the first one is, what did you get right when you took your first flight into your entrepreneurial journey?
You know, I laugh because I think once you become an entrepreneur, you can look back over like your life story, and I could see glimmers of her very early on in my life. I just didn't know that's what it was. I remember being in the second grade, and I would make these makeshift pom-poms out of sticks and like slips of paper that I curl and color, and I go to school and sell them in second grade for 25 cents. They looked terrible, but people, the power of persuasion, people would buy them. But I think what I gotten right was I have always been very, very clear on what I love, and what I love is writing. And so had it not been for my mother who steered me toward figuring out a structured, sensible way to write, I tell people I would have been left to my own devices, a big-haired bohemian woman just writing on the beach with no direction. So that gift, that love of writing, and then that direction from my mom to like, okay, if you want to write, that's great, but you got to figure out how to make money writing. That literally became the compass and has always been the true north for my whole career. So I got my start in corporate, working in ad agencies and Fortune 500 companies in marketing. When that didn't serve me, I knew I wanted to write. And so I was able to figure out a way to monetize my talent. And that truly has been the gift that my mom gave me that I got right. But I kind of got a good dose of motherly maternal push to get that right. But as long as I can monetize my talent, do work that makes me really happy and fulfilled, I'm right where I need to be.
I love that. Yeah, you figured out what you're good at and how to make money from it whilst also being very happy with it.
Yes, yes. So it morphs, right? It morphs and it changes as I grow. We just celebrated 20 years in business in October, which is this whole,
Congratulations.
thank you. It's this whole kind of trippy feeling. And then I started thinking, wow, I started working at J. Walter Thompson as an intern at 17 in 1992. That was 30 years ago. So I've been doing this for a long time, but the what I've been chasing is the passion for writing and creating. And it morphs and changes, whether it's a podcast or a speech or working with a client. For me, it's all tied to this love of writing.
When you actually, though, first launched the company, do you think there was something there really in particular you got right beyond what you've just said? Because I mean, I do agree. And I love the fact that you are combining your passion with being able to make money, because I think a lot of people get on the pathway and think, okay, how do I make money? And actually making money doesn't make you happy.
Right.
Unless you're actually enjoying what you do day to day. But like when you got started, do you think there was something in particular that you guys did that you felt like, that was a platform for success to grow on?
I think I have been blessed to be a very futuristic, lightweight, prosthetic person. And what I got right was the timing of it all. To take you back, the year was 2002. It was September, October 2002. So this was like a really crazy time to start a business. I was 27. The dot-coms had all literally just burst. I'm working in telecom at Bell South as a advertising manager, and nobody's leaving their jobs. Like, we just had 9/11 a year ago. It's a lot of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I think belief in myself, I got that right. I naively thought everyone was going to be happy that I was leaving out to start my own business, and I did not get met with a lot of support. I got met
Right.
with a lot of, "Are you freaking crazy? Like,
Wow.
what are you doing?"
Yeah.
I also got diminished a lot. Like, "Oh, well, what does your husband do?" But, like, it couldn't be like me
Yeah.
alone having the ability to do this. But fast forward 20 years later, I started this business at a time where content didn't drive anything in marketing. Yet I have this communications company that specializes in helping people find fractional comms talent in writing and doing content work, and content drives everything. So I would say timing, I got that really, really right. Like, 20
Right.
years later, everyone's starting businesses,
Yeah.
everyone's consulting. To do this today, what I did 20 years ago, I would have been one of many where I
Right.
was very ahead of the curve. And I've always been very ahead
Yeah.
of where the market is
Okay.
for whatever reasons.
Very good. Well, you were the person making pom pom things in the playground at school, so you were ahead of everybody else. You started that way.
I'm still ahead. Nobody's figured out what the heck.
Yeah. How do we use these? It's like, love that. So, who are or were your co-pilots on this journey?
Honestly, I don't give a lot of credit to my ex-husband. The marriage didn't work out, but when I decided that entrepreneurial spirit was there,
Yeah.
right? I talk about it when I'm talking about the pom-poms, and I was always organizing things and leading things at a very young age. But I probably wrestled with starting my own business for about 2.5 years before I actually took the step out and did it. And Sarah, the thing that is the true norm that I love to do, I could not believe that I could make money doing the thing I love. So I really went down this path of looking at franchises. And I mean, I turned every franchise opportunity you think of upside down. I was very close to starting a Kinder dance franchise. And I remember he at the time was like, "Shani, you don't dance." And I'm like, "I used to dance in
Yeah.
high school. Like, this was doable." But nothing ever worked. I really got
Right.
frustrated. That paralysis of analysis led me to
Mhm.
this pinnacle point where I, in a very exhausted way, was like, "I give up.
Yeah.
I'll just write." And when I leaned into and embraced what was already there, that's when it just was like the Midas touch. It all just started. The
Right.
path just found me. So I
Right.
have to give him credit. I mean, it's funny, I can't say I'm giving him credit publicly ever for anything
Right.
in life. He's an ex husband, but he was my co-pilot.
Yeah.
We definitely had ownership. He was the person cheering me on.
Yeah.
He had, in a lot of ways, way more belief in me and my ability to do this than I did at the
Yeah.
time.
That's so good. And I love the fact you shared that first time publicly. Did everyone hear that on EO Atlanta
I hope he's
podcast?
listening. So he gets his flowers, but
Yes.
yeah.
No, it's good. It's like, you're right. Partners can be, I mean, they're supposed to be your best and worst critic.
Yeah.
So, when we're sharing ideas with them, the good ideas or the bad ideas get pulled down and they give you that honest feedback. So it sounds like you needed that.
Yeah. Well, here's a funny thing too. Like, this is a person I do not have a relationship with anymore. We've been
Right.
divorced 15 years. Like, it's almost like it never happened. But
Yeah.
he believed in what I was doing so much that even in the moment of divorce, the
Yeah.
one thing he said I will not take from this marriage is Communiqué. He gifted his shares back to me. He was like, "I believe you're onto something."
Right.
I think the company at the time was like $100,000 in revenue.
Right.
So, fast forward,
Yeah.
I think he really saw this for me where I was just trying to be happy and write and
Yeah.
do creative work. So it's pretty
That's
cool.
really good. Really
Yeah.
good. So what is a challenge you and your team had to solve recently?
Recently, the challenges are, I laugh because we're at the end of a year. And what I love about the end of a year, you're no longer wondering how the year is going to unfold, right? You start off with your plan in January and all this hope and you have the ups and
Yeah.
downs throughout the year. But in December, you're like, okay, we did that.
Yeah.
As I look forward, we had a huge impact from COVID. We lost 85% of our business in an hour. I'm not shared that pretty openly. What I learned, and I just shared this with my forum recently, I'm really learning to give myself patience and grace. It's taken the full 3 years to really recover and come out of that. We are getting ready to close out with our strongest year ever. But when I run that backwards, I'm like, wait, like 3 years ago, we completely tanked. We
Yeah.
had to pull it back together. So this year has been a really hard year looking at the financials, really, figuring out, debt repayment strategies, consolidating
Yeah.
debt, taking and scrubbing out the emotions around the narrative of how we got here
Yeah.
and just dealing with the facts,
Yeah.
the raw results of like damage and trauma and really working very, very hard, very, very cohesively with our team. Shout out to Brian Soka, our EOS implementer. We did hire him. It's been a really great year, but we spent a lot of time really taking some hard looks at what's working, what's not working, and removing the emotions and really trying to approach it very factually and logically.
Gosh, I don't know how why maybe time has allowed you to do that, because I imagine that would have been extremely hard to do perhaps before this year, because there was a lot of emotion, wasn't there, wrapped up in, I mean, losing 85% of your business must have
Well,
been frightening.
it was. I don't mean to diminish it. I have been through a lot of personal loss in my life, and I was very appreciative during the pandemic, the things that I went through, whether it was divorce or, illness and, suffering with depression and having to take extended breaks from work or the unexpected death of a parent. Those things I had to do completely alone and with a smile on my face and still perform and still work. And I found those seasons to be honestly way more difficult than going through a pandemic where everyone was losing.
Right.
You may not have lost business, you may have
Yeah.
lost, hope, you may have lost,
Yeah.
family members, but we were all like going through this together. So this sounds really weird to say. It was probably one of my best years personally because I'd gotten to this stalemate place in the business where when I joined EO, I didn't even know if I wanted to keep my business. So you come face to face with losing the thing that you aren't even sure you want to keep, and then you decide to fight for it. We just decided to yield to God and the universe and trust the process, and it worked out. But had it not been for PPPs and EIDLs, I would have had a completely different answer. But there was a point where I told my therapist, I was like, I'm actually really not stressed. I'm having a great year. And she was like, let me remind you, you're getting a lot of money from the government.
I know. People... that does help. Yeah. But let me ask you this though. So you talk about taking the emotion and looking at things factually. Is there any advice you can give to any listeners? Like, how do you do that about your business? I mean, I don't know if there's anything you can share there. How do you?
Yeah, so I spoke a little bit about depression. I had a depressive episode, got diagnosed when I was 30. And my dad at the time, I'm very, very fortunate because my dad at the time really gave me this nugget of advice that served me very, very well. And I got it really early on. He was like, and I was so depressed that I'd had this breakdown and I couldn't work and I was scrambling, trying to get back to work. And it just, how in the pandemic, everyone's like, well, if we can just get back to normal. It was my first time realizing when you have a traumatic event, you don't go backwards. You don't go back to normal. You have to reset and figure out what is this teaching me and who am I on the other side of this. So I remember crying, talking to my dad, and I just was like, I just want to get back to what I was doing. And he said, Shani, the sooner you realize that you are not your business, the better off you're going to be. So I've fortunately been able to detach to the best of my ability Shani, the person, from Communiqué, the company. And it served me very, very well because at the end, and then I laugh and say my exit strategy is always my mom's sofa, which she recently said, don't come over here. I think going through a lot of personal loss really has framed for me what's most important. At the end of the day, I'm not likely to be a homeless person. I'm not likely to be without food, without shelter, without family, without amazing community and people who love me. So as long as I keep that in the forefront, the ebbs and flows of business, we can ride the waves.
Yeah. No, I do the same actually when I get overwhelmed and anxious about things, and you got to look at, we get so caught up in our lives and our issues. It's really with the mind trying to take yourself away and look down on it as if you're just one of so many other million of people, and it starts to put things in perspective.
Yeah, I did a meditation this one time. I was going through like a relationship breakup and I like ran away to the Bahamas to just like get away. And that's probably the first time I started diving into meditation. And the meditation literally took you from your room and where you were kind of outside of the room to where the space you were in. And by the time we were done, we were like in the universe somewhere looking down on earth.
Yeah.
Looking down on your place in earth, and then your problem is even smaller.
Yeah.
It's super tiny in perspective.
Yeah.
Then when you add that we live in this amazing country with so much abundance and wealth, I just try to keep in perspective. I am on my worst day. I'm living my grandparents, my ancestors' wildest dreams. And if I got it once, I can get it again. I just can. That's where my cocky kind of comes in. If I got it once, I can get it
Be
again.
cocky. Be cocky. Cocky brings confidence too. I like that. So,
but what keeps you centered, Sarah?
Oh, good question. What keeps me? I mean, I try and do the same. I don't meditate, but I do look at, well, I'm always very aware that I live in a country that I never thought I would live in. Never thought I would, marry an American man, have 2 daughters, run my own business, which I absolutely love. And I have to remember it's a business. I have to make money because I love it like you do, Shani. I mean, I think I write too, like you do. So there's a passion there. And I love to communicate. So, sometimes I'm like, you don't, in the early days, you don't have to pay me. I wouldn't ever say that. Like literally, I enjoy doing this, but then you realize actually there's payroll twice a month for all your people. But no, I just really being appreciative of, I do the same. I mean, my grandparents, I know if they were alive this day would smile at me warmly and, and say, keep going, sweetheart. So I know that they're proud of me. So, yeah.
I think a lot I've learned through life, like you do not get to control what happens to you, but you do get to control how you respond. Like I couldn't control a pandemic ravishing our business. I could control how I responded. I could control how I picked up the pieces. For me, that looked like not looking at the news, not inundating myself with the negative messages, and taking this intentional, gracious approach that if we, and I've always done this, like, because we've been through 2 recessions and a pandemic now over 20 years. I'm like, if we have a piece of business, we're in business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Period. Like we're working. We're over here working. I'm not going to let the news, the recession fears, I see it, but
I know.
If I put my attention there, if I would focus during that pandemic on going out of business, we would have gone out of business.
You'd allow yourself to
surviving.
It's like the same thing now with the recession. Everyone's like this looming recession. It's like, okay, I know you have to plan for things, but my view is I'm just going to keep doing what I'm good at. Just keep doing what I'm good at.
Because here's the thing, we create these self-fulfilling prophecies. So at the point, and we're media people, marketing. So we're talking about our own folks.
People,
the message, then, it's the news highlight. It's what's newsworthy right now. Well, that's what's in the feed. It creates the fear. People stop spending. Well, you're going to create a recession.
I know.
So
100%. I agree with you. So, So is there a favorite book that you have right now, Shani?
So I read a lot. I'm an avid reader. I was so snobby, Sarah. I was like, I am not doing Audible. I'm a paper book girl. And then I realized I started listening this time last year. I listened to Will Smith's book.
Oh, so did I.
Before the Oscars.
Yes, so did I. And then I just finished it recently.
Yeah, I listened to it on Audible. It was so entertaining. I have gone through so many books this year on Audible. I was like, wow, I can get through books a lot faster. So currently I'm reading The Light We Carry by Michelle Obama. I just started that because I didn't realize she had come out with another book. And that's currently what I'm reading. And then we just finished at work. And my leadership team, I really appreciate. I've never been like, oh, let's go read a book as a team person. We've clipped through, thanks to Brian, a lot of books this year. It's been really, really good for the leadership for us to read them together. So we just finished the 4 Obsessions of an Extraordinary Leader, and that was really good and relevant to core values and things like that. But that's kind of what I'm listening to in my Audible queue right now.
Can I just ask you, what does that look like then? So when you're doing a book within your entrepreneurs organization, your forum, what's happening? People just have to go away and read it. You come back and you take some time in the meeting to discuss.
Well, yeah, this isn't even my forum. This is my leadership team at Communiqué. We have a level 10 meeting every week for an hour and a half, and we take it chapter. We'll pick a book and then we go chapter by chapter, and we bake in about 15 minutes to share our impressions of the book. I found it's been really helpful because they have a greater appreciation for me when they see me and my role in the pages, and I have a greater appreciation for them and how they see me and how they show up in the business. So for example, when we read the book Rocket Fuel in Traction, you know, I'm a futurist, I'm a visionary. I had no clue I was given the with the organization whiplash every time I had a new idea. They're like, yeah, girl, like, yes, slow down with the ideas. But it was us reading the book together, and it created this very healthy respect and deeper level understanding of the different roles we each play in our gifts and how we bring them to the organization. So we're coming right off a Never Lose a Customer with Joey Coleman, and that's our next.
That was so good.
Yeah.
So good. Really enjoyed that. Okay, thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
What excites you about the future? What does your future of flight look like?
So I'm at a place in my career where I holistically am very future focused on what does my next chapter look like. I'm very grateful that I've decided I do want to keep Communiqué. I do want to grow it. I want to be able to be acquired or sell if we can get to about the 10 million mark. However, I don't know that I will or I won't. What I do know that I am called to be on stages speaking and advocating for mental health in the workplace. That's where I feel the most alive, is when I'm speaking. I'm currently, being pitched for a TED Talk. So I'm hoping that comes through soon, and we'll kind of spark things and move us in that direction. So I'm very, very clear on my gifts and my talents. I serve my organization the best when I am allowed to just be her on stage, influential, and do purpose work. I laugh because if we didn't have a label for it in 2002, but I'm totally a consummate social entrepreneur. And social entrepreneurship is much more important to me. Like, what is the purpose of the work we're doing beyond the revenue?
I agree. 100%. Okay, that's exciting. I hope that TED Talk comes through for you.
I think it will. I think it's a timing thing. So we'll see, but that's on the horizon.
Is that like a TEDx Atlanta? Is that?
Well, so I'm being pitched, so it could be in any of the above. So, I've had a couple of auditions, and we'll see. We'll see where I land.
I'm excited. You better let me know. You better let our listeners know about that. So
I will, absolutely.
Okay. So I want to learn, and I know our listeners do as well. Like, who are you? So before Communiqué, what was life like? Who were you before then?
Before Communiqué, so it's funny. We talked about I am not Communiqué. I am a sister. I am a daughter. I am a passionate friend. I am my best when I'm around people I love, who see me fully, not just who see Shani the leader, but who see like Shani the person, the real stripped down human person. I absolutely love being the days where I can be inconspicuous. I recently just went back to dancing since it was such a big part of my childhood, and rediscovered the gift of that. And I was telling people, I absolutely loved not being the leader, like not being the best, being able to be part of a collective of people who just were out there doing soul work, really. And so as a person, I'm a very spiritual person, and not in the way I am a person of faith. I am a Christian, but not in a preachy way. But it's very important for me to live my best life according to the values and principles that matter to me. And that is much more for me about honoring people, allowing people to be human, letting myself be human, and stripping down some of the things that I think we have to put on as entrepreneurs to be strong leaders. In my personal life, I like being anonymous. I like being normal, for
Right.
lack of a better word. Yeah, so
Okay.
I do love to travel. I love great conversations. I
Mm-hmm.
love to dance.
Mm-hmm.
I like to have fun. You
Yeah.
know, I like to talk, as you can hear. So
It's all good. You're very good at talking and conveying your message as well. And I can hear the warmth and the passion in you, Shani. I've always noticed that about you. And I think it's a real quality.
oh, thank
Especially
you.
when you're successful. It's like because being successful can sometimes mean we lack that empathy and we lack that, we can come across, like it's all about us and that's all it is. And I know with you, it doesn't feel that way at all. You care about the people you talk with. So I think that's really,
Yeah,
really important.
if this is, and this is not to sound sad. I think I deal with a significant amount of loneliness sometimes, and so it's really important to me to connect with people, because you just never know what's going on behind someone's smile. And
No.
I can look back at harder times in life, and I know what that feels like to be isolated. I know what that feels like to be dealing with the death of a parent, and the world has gone on and you're literally suffering day to day just to hold it together. And it at the end of my life, I know no one's going to talk about, oh, the millions of dollars Communiqué made. They're just going to talk about how I made them feel. They're going to talk about some great moment they had with me. So I prioritize that up
Yeah.
in making sure I make space for people in things that matter most to me, so I can be present for people. It's just
Yeah.
really, really important for me.
Yeah. That's really, really good. Thank you for sharing that. So present day, like what problem do you solve and what impact have you made, do you think?
Yeah, so we again help companies communicate by helping them find a fractional marketing or communications person, or managing their comms projects for them. But really what we're in the business of is providing stress relief. And so we track and measure our success based on how many hours we save our clients, and really how we take them from these frazzled, over-indexed, stressed out managers to people who are able to be at baseball games and ballet lessons, and take off and know they have trusted partners behind
Yeah.
the scenes. So we call that philosophy joy economics, and our tagline is because life is more than marketing. And it all kind of dovetails
Yeah.
into the narrative that's important to me. But that's what we're about. And we've done a lot of research. And even before the pandemic, stress was costing US companies $360 billion a year in
Mhm.
productivity losses. So when you start doing the math on what and how stress is showing up in our organizations, I'm very passionate about advocating for healthy workplaces
Yeah.
and allowing people to be human within boundaries, right? But to
Yeah.
give them space to do life and to do work, so that
Yeah.
we can all rise and our companies can grow off of the healthiest versions of ourselves.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. Yeah. And you can feel when a company does not have that healthiness inside by just
Yeah.
looking at the people and feeling that stress. And I think COVID has taught us a lot about the importance of employers leaning in and actually truly listening to people. I believe that people say that they listen, but a lot of people don't
Right.
listen. And I think as an employer, you have to really listen. And as
Well,
soon
and
as
that humanity is what gets
yeah,
you through the hard times, right? Because if you're always focused on metrics and outward expressions of success, at the moment you don't have that thing, you automatically begin this spiral of failure. And there's so much joy. There's so many great things happening around us. And we as business owners, I really think we miss it a lot of times because we're great at what we do, but there's a lot of life going on outside of success and who gets to define success. So for myself, when I started defining my success more around, was I happy? Was I fulfilled? The whole like game shifted.
Right. That's so interesting. Oh my gosh, that's a whole topic in itself. I'd love to delve into that.
Like if you could think about it, if you could not report on your revenue or your net income as your success metrics, how do you measure success for you personally?
For me?
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh. That's a great question. I need to think about that. There's lots of ways, but I think, well, for me, I have 2 daughters. And so I've raised these 2 daughters to be, I'm still working on it. They're 16 and 19, but you're raising them to be confident, to not need a man, to bring in their income, to be selective on even, their friends and who they choose to be with, make good decisions. I don't mean that be selective in a cool way. I mean, just make good decisions on who you spend time with. And I feel that when I see the fruits of my labor and my husband's labor there, especially with my 19-year-old, who's old enough, I can start to see that. It's like that obviously makes me happy because that's me. I've always been a huge advocate for college education and standing on your own 2 feet and being able to literally feel like if you had to leave tomorrow, you go buy yourself a house, get a mortgage, get a car, live life, and nothing really should change.
Right. So if we projected you into the future 20 years and you saw both of your daughters living that out, and let's say you never made another dime from Media Frenzy, would you still
I
be
would be
successful?
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I mean. It's just shifting.
No, I like that.
Yeah. I allow myself to shift the lens on at any point in my life on how I define success for myself.
Yeah. It's interesting though, because I kind of think if I didn't work and I just allowed myself to really focus on that goal, I would end up alienating my children from me too. So it's like, you got to be able to.
It's balance, right?
Yeah. Demonstrate what I mean. I'm trying to demonstrate to them, like by running my own company and across 3 continents, when they were tiny, that's what I mean by, you just get up and you just keep going. And I think that's very important. So, anyway, so Oh, I love this next question, but this is the introspection question. Dun, dun,
Okay.
dun.
And bring it.
If you were to do this all again, would you do it over again?
Oh my gosh.
I know.
Honestly, I was raised by this very industrious baby boomer mom. Like everything you just said about how you are raising your daughters was what was exactly important to my mom.
Right.
My dad was the free spirit. He was the pharmaceutical salesman, the people-y part of me. That's all Jerry Godwin all day. But my heart, I'm gonna be really honest, my heart would go be the big hair bohemian writer and just go for it.
Yeah.
If I've spent my time in a corporate shell, and I think that's where this friction inside of me comes from. Left to my own devices, and if money and survival was not needed, I would just go be free. I would be a bird. I would be bohemian girl on the beach, and I think I would still be as successful. I think I was raised by a very pragmatic mother who was also great in her own right in corporate. They were very much the get a job, stay there forever kind of generation. It just wasn't the way people raise their kids now. If that had been nurtured in me more and I had been like poured into like, go forth, we will support your writing career. Honestly, I don't know that I would have gone this path. I think this was the structured rebuttal to figure out how to make money. I wouldn't trade any of it.
No, I know what you mean.
It's created a very beautiful life style and a beautiful story for me. So I think when I look, again, at what's next for me, it's bringing the whole thing full circle, because in that way, I do have the income, I do have the lifestyle that will support being the author, the writer, the
Yeah.
speaker,
You can go
and
do all those
I
things
can
now.
do them now.
Yeah, because yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
you made me, when you were talking about being a writer and bohemian, I'm starting to think about that movie I just watched where the crawdads sing.
Oh,
I
I
imagine,
just saw that on the flight. It was
yeah,
so good.
I'm
Yeah.
imagining you, but obviously she was an illustrator, but you
Yeah.
are a writer. I can just imagine you kind of like
I
getting,
except I don't want to go live in the forest.
yes, I felt the same when I
I would
watched it.
rather die if I could
Yeah,
be around people. But yeah, I just saw that on the
it was
plane.
so good. So good.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and then twist at the end. I won't
Oh,
spoil it, but
oh yeah.
like,
No, yeah, yeah. Not, we don't know who's listening, but the twist at the end was excellent. Yeah,
yes.
I
Yeah.
know. So, bonus round. What do you
Okay.
you kind of already alluded to this, but I'm gonna go a bit deeper because I want to know more. I told you when we had our prep call, I want to know more about this. What do
Oh
you do?
yeah.
What do you do outside of work?
So lately I'm back to dancing. So I took, when I say dancing, I took ballet, tap, and jazz from sixth grade to 11th grade. And I loved it. And again, I said my mom was really pragmatic. When I got to senior year, I'm the oldest of three girls. She canceled Christmas on every senior activity known to man because she's like, we got to pay for her to go to college. So like I was supposed to be a debutante, that got canceled. Ballet, everything just got scrapped. And I went to Hampton University freshman year. I tried out for their dance troupe, the Terpsichoreans. I did not make it, and I hung up my point shoes. And it was over the pandemic that I realized that I was bringing this achiever leader into my workouts. And I was chasing all of these really hardcore, goal-oriented workout regimens. I did 5 half marathons, 2 triathlons. The thing is, I don't enjoy it at all. Like people would talk about the high they would get when they ran. And I was like, I'm looking at my time, my performance, like I wasn't fast enough. And so the pandemic gave me time to reflect. And I made a commitment a year ago to get back to doing workouts and moving my body in ways that I loved. And here's the thing, I always dismissed dance because I was like, well, that's not real exercise. And it is. I didn't experience it as exercise because I loved it. And I realized if you just do something you love, it doesn't matter what it
No,
is,
it
just move
doesn't.
your body.
Yeah.
So
Actually, it is exercise. It's cardio.
this is where the achiever kicked back in. I wasn't just going to get back to it. I wanted to perform, and Dance 101, which is an adult dance studio, had a performance series. So I just jumped in cold, hadn't danced since I was 17, which is kind of crazy in hindsight. And we just did 3 shows in November. It was like literal Beyonce tour choreography. It was crazy. It was a whole amazing experience. But what I got was this amazing tool and gift, a whole new tool in my toolbox to manage stress, to again, take off the leadership helm and just be regular. And exercise is probably like the 5th benefit that I got from it. So it's just, I'm still processing the experience, but I'm very excited about dancing into the new year. No pun
You're
intended.
giving me some ideas here because I was the same. I did dance up until about the age of 14. I did the same, modern tap and ballet. Absolutely loved it. Loved modern. And I
Yeah.
have tried to dabble back into it. But that was before I had children. And I'm just thinking the same. I may go and see what there is around the area I'm in because it is, like you say,
Yeah.
you enjoy it and it's exercise. But I love putting on a show too, Shani. I think
Well,
you
that's the other thing I realized. So the same feeling I had when I speak showed up during the performances. And I was
yes,
like,
that's interesting.
yeah, I really like to perform. That's what I'm starting to see. There's a
Yeah.
whole performer thing going on. So I also have another goal I set for myself was to actually do something that scared me. So in January, I'm reading an open mic night of some poetry that actually terrifies me more than anything. So I can't figure out why, but January 4th, I'll be on somebody's microphone reading something I've written, poetry or something. So
I'm excited to hear.
yeah, so I'm pushing myself into the arts a lot more, which is right up.
Yeah, which is, I can only see really wonderful, happy things happening in 2023 for you. It's going to be,
Thank you.
you've got so many different moving parts and all things. I think sounds like you've done a good job, and I'm sure it's an ongoing job, Shani, about channeling obviously what makes you happy.
Yeah. That becomes the true north. Because if I'm happy, and that's what I've come to realize, communicate doesn't have to be my only sole source of happiness. And the more I find things outside of communicate that make me happy, I actually show up as a better leader because there's less pressure. I'm making more rational decisions. I don't have all my cards, and I'm not a betting person, but I'm not betting just on this one play in my life.
Yeah.
And I get community and friendship and
Yeah.
all the things that come when you allow yourself as a leader to expand beyond just the work that you do every day.
Yeah. Really great advice. That's really, really good. Thank you. You've helped me. You've inspired me today. Oh my gosh. So where can people connect with you? How can they get hold of you?
So I'm pretty easy to catch up with on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn. I am also on Instagram at I am Shani Godwin, and on Facebook at I am Shani Godwin.
Nice.
And Communiqué, look, I'm just talking about me, and Communiqué USA is the company.
It's all good. It's all good. There's a personal side, there's the business side, and they all blend together in some shape or form. So
well,
this
our website is communique-usa.com.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. So thank you so much, Shani, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sarah. This was a lot of fun.
You're really welcome. I enjoyed it. Thank you to our audience. If you learned something today, maybe you laughed, maybe you got inspired, please tell someone about this podcast, EO Atlanta Taking Flight. Thank you again, Shani. This has been another very exciting episode of EO Atlanta's Taking Flight, and I look forward to seeing and hopefully you guys hearing from us all again very, very soon. See you next time. And so that wraps up another episode. Thank you for joining. For show notes and other episodes, visit us at takingflight.live. For more information about EO Atlanta, visit eoatlanta.org. Special thanks to the following sponsors: